Hello and welcome back to the Nasty Metal production channel here at YouTube, and welcome to a very special Wednesday review. Today I am here to review Chronicles of Mosh, a compilation album that was released on January 20th. This is a direct result of Soulgrinder Zine partnering up with Thrashback Records. So, without further ado, let's get into it, folks. So, before I get into any of my thoughts, you know what I have to do. I have to do a track listing rundown so I can tell you folks what are the songs are on this album, how many tracks are on this album, and what is the time length for this album. Since it contains 15 tracks from 15 different bands total, it clocks in at the length of 54 minutes and 43 seconds. So these 15 tracks are, well, it begins with the band Donner Party with Serial Thrasher, Perpetual Warfare with Realidad Realidad, Executor with Collecting Enemies, Kraken with Knifeman, Evil Army with No Escape from the Attack, Video Massacre with Rampage, Fatal Agent with Pain Asylum, Disruptor with The Last Day, Insanity's Reign with No Warning, Chains of Belmont with Governmental Abuse, Paralysis with Misery Live, Azoteta with Ceremonia di Possession, Dick Vomit with Tree Rape, Catharsis with Ritualize, and then now on to El Picado with My Salvation. I hope I'm pronouncing some of those titles correctly, which I think I have maybe in the past. So there you go, folks. There's your 15 tracks again from 15 different bands there. Yes, I think you kind of heard that correctly. Damn, I actually smacked the microphone. Again, it was my notes that just smacked the microphone, so, okay. God damn, that was a little weird. So, Chronicles of Mosh here is a compilation album, like I've stated before at least early of the review here, or the video, that focuses on mainly thrash metal bands. I do, however, need to point out that there are 10 tracks here that I've already reviewed on this channel, with 6 of the titles all coming from Soulgrinder Zine's Deadly Mosh Revenge disc from 2 years ago, and then there are songs from bands like Insanity's Reign, Chains of Belmont, Catharsis, and El Picado, who have had either comps or albums released or reissued by Doomsday's Today Records. So I won't be focusing on any of those 10 tracks here. I will instead just focus on the other 5 tracks on here that I've never really reviewed on the channel, because I don't want to be too repetitive on this channel, okay? So let me begin here with Realidad Maldita Realidad from Perpetual Warfare, based out of Bogota, Colombia. Taken off of the Hellhounds EP from 2019, this is pretty much an aggressive crossover track with blast beats and mosh-like breakdowns. Again, it's a very fun track, nothing else to say but that I dig it. Next up is Collecting Enemies by Executor from Curitiba, Paraná, Brazil. Yeah, they are from Brazil. Taken off the band's second album, Surrounded by Decay from 2020. This here sounds less like your typical Brazilian thrasher like Sepultura, and probably actually mostly reminding me a little bit of the Disturbing the Peace album from Atomica, but yet it sounds way more of stuff like Creator and all of that Teutonic thrash metal from Germany. Still, it's very brutal in its delivery, and it's probably my favorite track off of this comp. It's a killer track, and to be honest, I just love that Teutonic thrash sound to begin with. So again, it's a really good track in that style. And again, when it comes to a lot of Brazilian thrash metal bands, and especially modern day ones, I tend to really hear a lot of them staying true to the old school Brazilian thrash style from the 80s with like Sarcophago and early Sepultura and Holocausto, and again, the first album from Atomica. But never really you hear them go from even more of the American style. Actually, probably do. I know Atomica did on their third record. Was it their third or second record? I think it might have been their second record. But again, there was at least a couple of Brazilian thrash bands that really kind of went for that American style, but for the most part, it still had that Brazilian flavor to it. But rarely did you ever hear a Brazilian thrash metal band that actually sounded more like the German thrash sound. The stuff like, again, like maybe Sodom, Destruction, Crater, and other bands like Death Row or so on, you know. So it's just really kind of cool to kind of hear at least a Brazilian thrash metal band, especially from these days, that actually sounds more closer to the German style of Teutonic thrash. So still, I digress. I'm just going to move on now to, well, Knife Man by Kraken from Lima, Peru. Taken off of the band's 2021 debut album, Tales of Terror. Now, where have I heard that title before? Well, all I can say is that it's pretty standard brutal thrash that sort of borders on death thrash. Kind of reminds me of Hypnasia, just pretty much your fast ripping pace thrash. And again, it's a pretty good track in its own right too, and I do dig it. So I'm just going to leave it there, and now on to No Escape from the Attack by Evil Army, based out of Memphis, Tennessee. Taken off of their Unclean Spirit single from 2020. Now, Evil Army I've been aware of for almost 12 years now. I became aware of these guys through Joel Grind of Toxic Holocaust. And then I ended up checking out their 2006 self-titled debut album. This track here, again, sounds very much similar to what I remember of Evil Army. Again, anything off that debut album. So again, if you are not familiar with Evil Army, or if you are, you'll probably end up digging this track to begin with, or you might have already heard the Unclean Spirit track. But to keep going with this, if you're not familiar with Evil Army to begin with, then this track should probably inspire you to check these guys out, and especially their self-titled album from 2006. It's just raw, bare-bones thrash played with a punk-like fury, with plenty of gang shock-like backing vocals to accompany this rabid package. Again, a really good track from them, and probably my second favorite off of this comp. Actually, maybe my second or third, because I also really dig the... Actually, I did say the Executor one was my favorite to begin with. Already brain fart into this video. Nice. Yeah, to wake you up. Alright, so finally up next is Rampage by Video Massacre from Reading, Pennsylvania. Now, this is an exclusive track to this comp, which is pretty cool. So if you're into these guys, so far all they have is one EP, one demo, and we're also a part of a split release with Christ Chopper. Then this comp should be a total one in your Video Massacre collection. Again, there's not very much there to begin with. They're probably still starting out. So maybe whenever they get to their debut album, then you'll start probably even getting more and more of a collection going by Video Massacre. So there you go. It's typical of their brand of crossover slash thrash, whatever, crossover thrash. Again, done very well. It's damn enjoyable, and it marks off all the check boxes for crossover thrash because it's quick and straight to the point and no beating around the bush. So there you go. Just a fun track to begin with, and to me, this just right here ends off a very cool compilation from Soulgrinder Zine and Thrashback Records. So there you go, folks. There's my thoughts on Chronicles of Mosh from both Soulgrinder Zine and Thrashback Records. So my rating, you know what? I don't know if this really deserves a rating to begin with, because it's a pretty fun comp to begin with, and I think a rating would just devalue, I think, the coolness of this comp, and I don't know if you really can do great with giving a compilation album a rating to begin with. I mean, yes, there might be some decent comp albums, maybe if you could grade some from the 80s or something, but to me these days, comps should just be seen more as a way to turn you on to much more different bands, or newer bands, whatever, bands that are just starting out. It should be seen as a gateway, and I think giving a rating to what would be seen more as like a gateway release, I think to me would devalue the compilation album to begin with. So I am not going to give this a rating. I am just going to do my part and just recommend you to check out Chronicles of Mosh from Soulgrinder Zine and Thrashback Records, so you can at least hopefully check out these bands, and I hope that you end up getting turned on to any of these bands, and I hope you end up supporting these bands. And if you want to support this compilation release from Soulgrinder Zine and Thrashback Records, you know where to look. You are to look in my description box so you can find the links to buy this and possibly also check this out. So with that, I hope all of you enjoyed, and thank you to Paul of Soulgrinder Zine for sending this out to me. This is Heavy Thrashhead saying I'm out, and I'll see you all later. Take care, everyone.